There's so many Canva apps out there now, so it's easy to miss the real gems. I'm going to show you my 6 favorite free Canva apps for creators to make more engaging designs. Ready? Let's do this. Hi, my lovely people, it's Natalia and welcome back to my channel where I help you create better content and grow on social media. With all the amazing Canva features, it's so easy to forget this little panel right here, but it's full of useful tools. I'm here to help you discover some of the most interesting ones, so hit that like button, subscribe, and let's jump straight to Canva. App number 1. Easy Reflections. This is a fairly new app allowing you to add natural looking reflections to your designs. Sometimes when you create, elements may not look as realistic as you'd like them to be, or you may want to make them slightly more dynamic. Now, adding reflections is a great way to create visual interest in a very simple way. To access all of these apps, you need to go to the left panel in here and click on the Apps panel. From here, you'll be able to choose some of the ones that are featured because some of the ones that I'm discussing are actually trending right now, but you can actually search for them. So I'm going to go ahead and say Easy Reflections, and you can see that Canva is actually suggesting the ones for me. So I'll just click on it and you'll be able to find this one right here with a shoe image. Now this app has a very simple interface, so all you need to do is just to select the element in your design. It works for images for now. So if I click on this Innisfree serum, you'll be able to just create a reflection. Now, why am I choosing an element like this? As you can see, I've added a little bit of a shadow underneath this element in here, but it's still not looking as natural. There's a marble countertop below, but it's just not giving that reflection that we want. So I can just click on it, create reflection here in the left panel, and you'll have all the different options in here. So of course, the position is set as below as a standard. At the top, you can see the preview of your reflection. It updates in real time, so you'll be able to see when we change the other options for position, for offset, and for the opacity. Of course, the position naturally is set to below because that's usually where the reflections will be. But of course, if you want to change it to above, to left, to right, you will be able to do the same thing. So for below, I'll go back because we're adding this reflection here at the bottom. And then for the offset, you can see what it does from here. I think I'm going to just push it a little bit further because I just want a little bit of that reflection. And then for this to nicely smooth out till the end. And then the opacity from here, you'll be able to make it more or less transparent. And of course, after you add this element, actually, you will be able to also apply the standard Canva transparency option from the Canva editor as well. So I'm going to just drop this opacity to something around 39 in this case, and then I can just click to add to a design, and you can see very vaguely, you can see that reflection being created for you. I'll just make it much, much bigger. So once I make it smaller, you can go in here, I'll zoom in like this to be able to just make sure that it matches the size of my bottle above, because this is a very close reflection like this. Let's say this is something that I'm happy with. So you can see that reflection is here, and I'm just going to go to my layers and reposition it slightly under that shadow. So you can already see that this looks natural, but of course this countertop in the image is actually finishing in here. So what I can do from here now is just as with any other image, I can just drag by the side to be able to make that reflection cropped. And from here, you can see like this, that this is kind of ending where the countertop is ending. And if I'm not happy with how transparent it is, I can actually just change that transparency from here to make it even more subtle. And voila, you can see how natural looking it is. Of course, apart from that, you can create more kind of fun effects like this. This is just a little promo, YouTube style promo, I think, for thumbnails that I've created with a little bit of that reflection underneath just to create that visual interest. Now, as a side note, unfortunately, the 45-day links for Canva Pro trials are going away on the 30th of April. Afterwards, it's all going to revert back to the standard 30-day trial. So if you want to make sure that you use all the amazing features for 2 more extra weeks, make sure to claim the offer right now before the 30th of April to be able to use the amazing features for a bit more time. App number 2, Gradient Generator. I'm sure you've already noticed that gradients are really trendy right now. They make any design look modern and more visually engaging since they are a lot more dynamic than solid colors. Now, this is why I love the Gradient Generator app. It allows you to instantly create an aesthetic, grainy gradient using a 5-color palette, and it's amazing for kind of interesting looking backgrounds. I also like that it's not just another fad that you have to jump on, but an app that actually still lets you stay on brand. Now, you can see in here that this is a decent design, but it looks a little bit boring, and especially with this little kind of purple color above, I don't think it looks that good. So what I can do is to just go to the apps in here and search for gradient generator. Can see the suggestion as before, and this is the one that we're looking for. It has a nice kind of gradient image underneath, and you can see from here that again we've got the preview at the top, and then below we've got a generated color palette. Now if I wanted to actually use my own color palette, I would be able to just add my color palette in here as a file to the top of my design and be able to just grab the hex codes for it. It's very useful if you actually have those hex codes visible on your palette. I very often create my palettes this way, but you are also able to just inspire yourself by whatever Canva suggests. So if you click on randomize in here, you'll be able to see the different color palettes that it shows you. And then from here, if you really like a specific palette, I might kind of click a few times more just to find something that I really like that matches the vibe. And then I will be able to just lock that palette and then randomize this gradient to create a bit more of that interest. And in here, you will be able to adjust that noise level. So you can see that when you go high, it actually is very, very grainy. So I would advise you to just stay towards the lower end in here, but I do like a bit more of that gritty look. So I'll go for something around 16, and then you simply click add to a design. Now, unfortunately for now, it only generates square templates. So of course you have to keep that in mind while you're generating, so that you will have to choose an area if you're creating something like an Instagram post that will be a bit more of a vertical ratio. But in here, I like what it looks like. I can just drag it back to show you what it looks like this, and I really like the effect. Now, I've just entered my hex codes for all of my colors from my own color palette, so you can see what it looks like. Make sure to hit lock color palette before you move away from it, and I can just randomize it to see what it generates for me. Of course, I have one color that is pretty dark, so if you want to just kind of remove it, you can drag it towards the same panel in here, but you can see that it's a lot more delicate, a lot more subtle, but I really do love that effect. So for my backgrounds like this, I would be able to definitely use something like that. And of course, if I wanted to, I can change the color from here. Now, notice this. This is one thing that I really don't like about this app. It's a little bit glitchy in a way that if you click away, it reverts back to the default. So make sure that if you want to keep generating, you will be doing it straight from this panel at one time. App number 3, Typegradient. Staying on the subject of gradients, have you ever wanted to add gradient to your text in Canva, but you couldn't find a way? Well, with this new Canva app, we now have a solution. It's called Typegradient, and it helps you easily add a simple or complex gradient to a text box. Now, it comes with a nice variety of fonts as well, so there's a lot to choose from, and hopefully it will help you stay on brand as well. Now, right here, we've got a minimalistic, if not a little bit of a boring design, so we can add a little bit more flair to it with the Typegradient app. So let's go to the apps and search for Typegradient. And from here, you've got this one. It looks like this with a little G. So here at the top, you can enter your text. So you can just paste the quote that I've used for my original. Then below, you will be able to choose your font. I have something very specific in mind, so I'll just go for Noemi in here. And if you see this little arrow right here, you will be able to access the whole typeface and be able to choose other types of fonts from the same family. So I'll go for black in this case. If you want to go back and search for a specific font that maybe you use as your brand, you will be able to do it from here. Or if you're looking for inspiration or something that will just look cool for your design, you will be able to just scroll through that panel like this. Now in here, you will be able to change the alignment, so you can make it center or make it aligned to the right or to the left. And from here, you can of course adjust the line height. This is something that we always want to do. I went for something a little bit more separate, so I'm just trying to emulate what I see on my screen. And below, you've got the gradient. Now, naturally, as a standard in here, you will be able to see the 3 points in here, and this is how that gradient is created. So you will be able to just enter the values in here. Unfortunately, just like with the previous app, we don't have a color picker in here, so you will have to remember or have note of your actual hex codes that you want to use. So I'm just going to enter them like this. So as you can see, I'm just clicking on that preset color frame in here, and I will be able to just grab my colors. I have have them on the second display and just enter that hex code in here. And for my last one, I can just enter it like this. Of course, don't think that you're just limited to 3. You will be able to actually just add another point for your gradient by just clicking on that little spectrum in here. And of course, you can also move them around to blend them a little bit more differently like this. And if you want to delete that point at any stage, you will be able to just delete it from here. Now, you can see down below that we've got a preview like this, and you will also be able to adjust how your actual gradient looks. Now, for now, we only have the options to add a linear gradient. You can see what the effects are when I do this. You will be able to just kind of move it around like this, but there's no option for now to create any circular ones or anything of that nature, any other styles. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a simple gradient that is linear from the top to the bottom, and I can just hit add to design. As you can see in here, I can just grab it like this, make it bigger. It properly aligns. I was pretty accurate with my line spacing, and I can just go ahead and remove what's underneath, and this is what it looks like in here. App number 4, Typecraft. Now, gradient text is one thing, but how about warping and reshaping your text to convey your message in a more dynamic, engaging way? Well, Typecraft is the answer here. Now, we've got this lovely background generated with a gradient generator. You can see that I use this app a lot and I really love it. So I've just added this gradient in here. And now from the apps, I can go to the top and search for Typecraft. This is the one that I'm looking for. This is what it looks like. And at the very top, you've got the text options. So I'll go for chill first. Then you've got the font choice. It looks very similar to the previous ones, but I feel like the range for the fonts is much smaller in here. But I think I'm just going to stick to this one. And below, you will be able to choose the style. So you can have just a plain solid fill. You can have an unfilled style. You may not be able to see it, but I'll just make the border a little bit bigger for you so you can see underneath that this is what it looks like. And an outline as well, where you've got both the fill and the outline in here. But again, I want to keep the none in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and change the color. Again, we've got the spectrum, no color dropper, unfortunately, but I'll go for just the plain white like this. You will be able to also enter the hex code, and you can see that it just inverted those colors so I can see exactly what's happening on the screen with the preview. Now, the magic in here happens when you actually use one of those many points in here that you can see. When I choose that one and just drag it, it just automatically stretches the text like this, and you will be able to just adjust it the way you like. Now, I want my top to be pretty even, so I'm just going to try to match it. Now, it's not perfect because I cannot really use shift as I would normally do to keep kind of the ratio in here. So I will have to be a little bit more precise. This is something that I don't quite like about this app, that you don't have that precision. But again, we cannot have everything. I will just drag that middle side in here to the top just to try to retain that straight line at the very top. Now, if I drag this one to the bottom, because I want to create a bit more of that wave, but still keep that line in here a bit more straight, and maybe get this a little bit lower like that, you can see that I've created a bit of a wave, but it's not wavy enough for me. So what I can do is to just drag this point, and this point actually is attached to the central point, and it creates a bit of that curved line with our bottom. So you will be able to adjust it like this. So you can see, for example, in here, I've got like almost like a wave in here. So I will be able to just then add the element to the design like this and see what it looks like. Well, it's pretty decent, but it's maybe not what I was looking for. So you can go back and actually amend some of the points in here. So I want to make it a little bit more straight because I don't like that it's going kind of a bit too much in here. And I will maybe make it a little bit more like that, dragged by the side. And I can always go back and update it. I'm more happy with this one. So let's just stretch it out like this. And I'm going to actually just duplicate that element just to save myself some time. So I can just duplicate it, and you can see that when I jump into Typecraft, it still has all of those settings set for me. So I'm just going to change that to out. And just like that, what I want to do is to revert back to the line, to the straight line. And of course, I will have to be able to do this from here. Now, of course, I've changed these lines in here. here. So I will try to retain those lines like this just to keep that straight edge. And of course, it's a lot of back and forth for this. So if you ever feel like you're kind of playing around with it way too much, you can always click reset shape. And this way you will be able to go back to the standard settings like this. But I like kind of a bit of more of an organic shape in here. So what I'm going to try to match is that line that goes above in here below this chill. So I will go down like this from here and then trying to emulate that wave like this, just to keep this one a little bit lower and maybe this one a lot higher. Let's update that element, and you can see that almost kind of fits in here. So you can play around with it and just, you know, tinker and fiddle and try to make it as perfect as you like. I will make sure that I do this for you right now, and I'll show you the finished design in just a second. And this is what it looks like. Now, it's not perfect, of course, but this is just demonstrating what you can do and how you can actually warp those shapes, warp that text to have a bit more of an interesting design. App number 5, Canwave. Now, this is another simple app that has a lot of potential to add visual interest to your designs. Now, Canwave is one of the 3 wave generating apps in the Canva ecosystem, but I like this one the most. Now, not only does it create dynamic waves for you with smooth or pointy ends, but it also allows you to use gradients with transparency for a more modern look. So if you go to apps and search for wave, this is where you actually see all 3 of those apps that I've mentioned at the top. But again, we're going for Canwave because I think this is the one that gives you a lot more power than the other ones. Now, from the top, you'll be able to choose a solid type of a wave, a gradient wave, or a line wave like this. This is another great option to just add a bit more of that visual interest. Now, I really want to use gradient for this. I really like this effect in here, so I can just pull up this color palette in here. Again, you will be able to just choose something from the spectrum and change it like this, or choose some of the recommended colors from below like this, or change the hex codes to, again, something that you're working with. Now, of course, in here, you will be able to just change the gradient angle like this. You can see that also creates that little kind of almost like a shadowy effect, which I really, really like. It's a very aesthetic look. And of course, you can change the complexity of the waves in here. So you can have something a bit more minimalistic and simplistic, but you can have a lot more complexity in those as well. And you can also change the height variation. So if you're going for something a little bit more smooth, you can go for something a bit more low, but in here at the top, you'll be able to create a much more disturbed sea, if that makes sense. And in here at the top, I've missed these 2, so you can see the curved style and the pointy style that I've mentioned. So again, if your content is not really that kind of angular, if that makes sense, you will be able to just choose a curved style. And you can also go up to 5 different layers. And if you just keep clicking on it, it will just keep regenerating the other wave. So you won't be able to go beyond 5 layers. So I can go for something like 5, let's say, or maybe 3. Let's keep it a little bit more minimal. And from here at the bottom, you can also keep generating like this. So I can just add that one to my design like this. You can see that it looks really nice and aesthetic. And I can just generate again and maybe add this one. So both of these are slightly different. And if you can see, when you put one on top of the other, they will create a bit more of that nice and complex effect. And you will be able to just flip them as normal. And afterwards, you can also amend the colors from the top because they're treated as vector graphics. So I'm just going to stretch this one out and place it below using my keyboard. And just like that with the other one, I will be able to just change that style to this, and maybe I'll flip it as well, not vertical, it's horizontal. I will be able to just add that wave like this. Maybe I want a little bit more of that color pop underneath, so I will be able to just make it a little bit smaller. And again, I'll just send it to the background, and this is what it looks like. Of course, you can create so many different effects with it, so have a play around and see what you can come up with. App number 6, Mockups. Now, last but definitely not least is one of the most useful apps available in Canva, and it's called Mockups. In the digital space, you so often have to present digital products or lead magnets or showcase your designs on an actual product or device seamlessly. Now, it may not be so easy to do it in Canva normally, since we don't have transformation tools that would let us skew or distort or warp elements. So Mockups app is the perfect solution to generate instant, professional looking mockups. apps. So we've got this promotional Instagram post for an IG audit checklist. It's a free downloadable. So of course, we're kind of promoting a digital product or a lead magnet in this case. And I want to add a nice looking phone in here just to present what that checklist would maybe look like. So I can go to the apps in here and search for Mockups. Now, previously it used to be called Smart Mockups, but now it's just called Mockups since it was acquired by Canva. And from here, you will be able to choose all the different types of mockups from, graphics, tablets, watches, and I want to go in for a smartphone. Now, there is a variety. Usually you can see some images, more organic images where you will be able to just enter your image into that whole photo, but you also have transparent background mockups like this one, for example, where you will be able to choose phones in different positions to incorporate in your design. And this is exactly what I'm going for in here. So I can just choose that image in here. And when I just click on it, it will just insert it into my design. I could just make it a little bit bigger maybe. And I'll just try to make it a little bit different from here so that it fits my design like this. Let's say this is what it looks like and how I want it to look. And I'll just make sure that I'm matching the edge in here. And maybe just to make it look a little bit nicer, I will go ahead and add a bit of a shadow. And from the graphics in here, let's go. I can just maybe choose this one. Let's say this is the one that I want to use. I'll just make it match that whole element in here, reposition it underneath, and maybe drop that transparency ever so slightly so it just matches the style. Of course, we've got our mockup positioned, but how do we actually just add something to it? So you can just go to your uploads, you can go to the elements, anywhere you've got the file that you want to use, you will be able to just drag it onto the mockup. So let me just find something for that would work for this design. Now, I actually don't have anything that's called an IG audit checklist, so I'll just use my Instagram screenshot from my profile. And what you can do is to just drag that image on top of that mockup, just as you would with a frame, with a normal frame in Canva. Let it work its magic, and voila, you can see how natural it looks. It's just a lovely, lovely way to present your ideas with mockups. Now, I'd love to know which one of these is your favorite, so drop me a comment down below and watch this video next to create more short videos effortlessly using Canva AI. Now, don't forget to like this video. It really does help my channel a lot so I can bring you more value, and subscribe while you're at it, of course. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.